ReZero wouldn't be a popular show if it didn't have the people who confidently misunderstand the story just for the sake of dunking on it. Most of these complaints stem from the disconnect between Natsuki Subaru and the viewer, because he is, and I mean this with 100% of my being, cringe. His actions early on of not considering the people around him human, or feeling entitled to their respect due to the things that they aren't aware of, or causing a huge commotion at the royal selection meeting, Subaru routinely makes a fool of himself or says really stupid things. This cringe and gross behavior of his leads to some disconnect between protagonist and some viewers, because for a lot of people it's hard to form a connection to somebody who you find to be so horribly cringe to witness and who you feel you are supposed to root for, and due to that lack of connection, people lose the ability to empathize with the kind of guy Natsuki Subaru is, and by extension, they lose sight of Return by Death. This ability, this authority, that allows one to reset to an earlier point in time after your death, and understanding its function in the story is quintessential in enjoying or understanding Subaru as a character. You see, Return by Death is a very powerful narrative tool. It lets the author explore Subaru's character in every facet, showing us reasons as to why he might use it, or why he might be afraid to use it. It shows us aspects of the world or characters we might not get to see otherwise. It lets the protagonist get a literal redo at great cost of his own well-being and sanity, and even has a couple of amazing hooks, like how he can't set the save point, or that he can't even express intent on communicating that he is looping in some regard, lest he bring on Satello's rage. Some people, reductively, state that Return by Death is the cause of all of Subaru's character flaws. In reality, Return by Death and Subaru have a symbiotic relationship, both bringing out the good and also the bad in each other. Return by Death can be wielded as a force of good, looping to save lives and assure a good ending, bringing out the heroic and selfless side of Subaru. It can also be wielded as a depressing, self-destructive tool that almost exists as a poison, causing the wielder to feel pain over and over again, to see other sides of people you love that you might not want to see, and pushing your heroic tendencies too far to the brink of your soul's annihilation. A power that was bestowed upon you because you were assumed to lose, but the power itself is amoral. It cares not your history or your goals, it only serves the purpose to bring you back to life. Natsuki Subaru as a kid felt that he was a prodigy. After all, he's that guy's child. He would constantly put himself in the center of attention. He always felt like he could do anything. As he got older and reality showed its head, his self-esteem would lower and lower. He would lose the energy to go to school, he would lose the energy to form connections, until the last inklings of his self-esteem would be lost altogether. At his lowest, he would be isekai'd, and he saw this as an opportunity to reinvent himself, to become that boisterous child who could do anything again, and what better power to be bestowed with than the ability to return to a point to always be able to reinvent yourself, to undo your regrets, and to challenge inevitable fate. Return by Death. At first, this authority worked as a tool of necessity. He ends up getting killed in the loot house due to a bit of a reckless decision, and then again because he doesn't fully grasp his power. And the second he becomes cognizant of this power, Subaru's relationship with Return by Death changes. When you are not aware of its existence or its capabilities, it doesn't necessarily inform your decision making. However, the second you are aware of it, an interesting moral question comes into play. Is there a point where Subaru is morally culpable for the bad things that happen due to him not dying and resetting? This idea that because Subaru can possibly work to prevent death or suffering from occurring, the onus is on him to do so. This is something that Subaru is left to consider, and while it's true Return by Death influenced his feelings of self-sacrifice, those feelings could only be swayed the way they were due to his state of being before the authority was bestowed upon him. This decision isn't being made because Subaru has Return by Death, it's made because the Subaru we know with the history we are familiar with has Return by Death. One cannot simply reduce Subaru's decision-making to his authority. We cannot strip his agency and decide that RBD is a better character than Subaru. After understanding the capability of his power, Subaru enters into an eternal trolley problem. He is essentially watching the trolley barrel endlessly towards the death of his loved ones and friends, and he has the option to put his body on the line to kill himself maybe once, or twice, or even 100 times to possibly save their lives. The trolley problem, for those unaware, is a trolley going down a train track, and it's going to kill 4 or 5 people unless you flip the switch and it will only kill 1. Unlike the trolley problem, Subaru does not have the guarantee that the person on the other end is savable. Think of Rem at the end of Arc 3. In Arc 4, Subaru comes to the conclusion that the only thing he has to offer his friends is his own demise, using Return by Death to ensure the best outcome possible, using throwaway lives and hurting himself until he essentially breaks. Not just once, but multiple times. A common criticism of Subaru's character is that he should just kill himself to redo things. Anytime a situation gets tough, some people out there just expect him to put a blade in his own neck and carry on with it. What this perspective neglects is the toll of that decision. It's easy to say that sitting on a couch watching the TV, but Subaru, in order to attempt to divert that trolley, must experience the pain of death, the cessation of existence, to see the outcomes of those worlds where the trolley is not diverted, to see the corpses of his loved ones before him, and feel the crippling sense of failure that his inaction led to. Subaru is constantly in a moral balancing game of putting other people's well-being and his own on a scale, for seemingly the rest of his life. The very nature of having redos forever warps his way of thinking and approaching situations. And this is what brings us back to our prior question. Is there a point where Subaru is morally responsible for the things that happen in a bad loop? One could look at it as a trolley problem with Subaru strapping himself to the tracks. Or one could even argue it is analogous to being morally required to donate an organ to save someone. And ultimately, at the end of the day, for many moral systems, your right to bodily autonomy is extremely important. If someone needed a kidney or they would die, and you were the only match in the world, you would maintain the right to deny them your kidney. You cannot be compelled to surrender your organs, even if doing so would do no perceivable harm in the long run. What Subaru does in Arc 4 or Season 2 is answer this moral quandary he finds himself in. He recognizes the immense suffering he experiences by using his life or his body as a tool, and decides to respect his own autonomy. While he doesn't go out of his way to loop to benefit others, if it happens to him, he will make use of the opportunity and the information gained to do the best moral good he can. In the same way you don't kill someone by refusing to donate your organ, Natsuki Subaru is not a murderer for refusing to kill himself, for refusing to make himself miserable for other people's happiness, to include himself amongst the people he wishes to save. This extremely complex situation of this literal 17-year-old is, unfortunately, something missed by those who do not form that connection to him, judging him as an omniscient viewer and failing to empathize with someone because of their bad behavior, not realizing that his bad behavior is the point. Of course, just because something is the point doesn't mean you have to enjoy it. I don't think Subaru being a weird misogynist douchebag should be something you are forced to enjoy because it's the point, but rather, it should be viewed through the lens that this dorky, forceful, and abrasive idiot is currently getting nothing he desires. While he wanted to be the most powerful person like a normal isekai main character, what he gets is slightly above average strength, the support class magic setup, and the ability to die. While he wanted to be extremely charismatic and for people to flock to him due to his behavior, instead he pushes pretty much everyone around him away, and gets ridiculed by them. He desired to be able to leverage his status as an isekai person, only to find out that he isn't the only one, and there are classifications for people like him. And Return by Death, as a narrative tool, ties all of these ideas together. While he seeks traditional strength, he finds power in his ability to loop, which of course does lead him down the wrong path. While he seeks superficial connections with people, the authority lets him see all sides of people to truly understand the depths of them, which of course also leads him down the trouble of distinguishing those timelines with the one he's in now. And depending on who you ask, it can also be used to kill people? Another thing people ask is, why does Subaru not just reveal Return by Death to kill his opponents? When people ask this, they are asking about this loop in Arc 3 where Subaru, trying to reveal Return by Death to Amelia, ends up killing her. There are a couple of issues with this. First of all, that was literally the only time that has ever happened, and it wasn't something that happened due to Subaru's own volition, because he isn't who decides when this clause of the contract had been broken. A third party, Satella, is the one who decides when Subaru has said too much, and decides the appropriate punishment. Even if Subaru were about to get his head chopped off by an evil person, him trying to invoke the Return by Death taboo may only end up squeezing his heart and getting him killed anyway. There is also this moral consideration that should be made that nobody really talks about for some reason. What if Subaru just doesn't want to kill someone? The boy who struggled with letting someone die doesn't necessarily want to have the direct action of taking a life. Having such an intimate relationship with death due to his authority, he also has a greater respect for life, wanting to secure as much of it as possible, the only exception being Betelgeuse, somebody who he considers not a human. Of course, Season 2 does show us a more human side of the Sin Archbishop, and it clues us in on this idea that Subaru may be grappling with the idea of who he considers worth killing or saving. To summarize this random video, Return by Death has no morality. It simply allows Natsuki Subaru to express his own. While he may have this shitty, cringe, and sometimes misogynistic behavior on the surface, the utilization of Return by Death shows who he really is beneath that facade he puts on for his peers. It reveals the stress he is under as a teenage boy to figure out such complex moral situations. It informs some of his breakdowns and feelings of inadequacy, and it lets him know that the people in his life really do love him. It truly is one of the most interesting narrative tools that I've seen, and if Subaru's behavior is a reason as to why you might have stopped ReZero, I would recommend pushing forward knowing that his behavior is a facade, and Return by Death is a tool designed to make him confront realities about himself. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for the funny YouTube algorithm. You can check the description down below to follow me on Twitter, where I'm objectively correct all the time. You can also join my Discord, where we talk about My Hero Academia, ReZero, Jujutsu Kaisen, and stuff like that. And you can also now become a YouTube member, which basically just gives you access to behind-the-scenes content, a little badge on comments, and live stream chats, and access to some emotes. Only do so if you want to support the channel, though. But that's about it, though. Thank you for watching. See ya.